Welcome to this November 20th, 2023 meeting of the Norfolk City Council. We'll call the meeting to order and call your attention to the Open Meetings Act posted here in the council chambers. If you now please join me in rising for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance. Roll call, please.
Rehnquist.
Here.
Arns. Here. Webb.
Here.
McCarthy.
Here.
Murin.
Here.
Snorton.
Here.
Clausen. Hildebrand.
Okay, with that, I would look for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion second. If no discussion, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Motion carries.
Would then look for a motion to approve the full agenda.
So moved.
Motion second. If no discussion, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Motion carries.
Okay, that takes us to item number 19 on the council agenda. Under special presentations, tonight we have a proclamation for November 25th, 2023 as Small Business Saturday. The proclamation reads as such: whereas the city of Norfolk, Nebraska celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community, and whereas according to the U.S. Small Business Administration, there are 33 million small businesses in the U.S. Small businesses represent 99.7% of firms with paid employees. Small businesses are responsible for 62.7% of net new jobs created since 1995, and small businesses employ 46.4% of the employees in the private sector in the United States. And whereas 72% of consumers reported that Small Business Saturday 2022 made them want to shop and dine at small, independently owned retailers and restaurants all year long. And whereas the city of Norfolk, Nebraska supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities. And finally, whereas advocacy groups as well as public and private organizations across the country have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Josh Moaning, Mayor of the City of Norfolk, by the power vested in me, do hereby proclaim that November 25th, 2023 as Small Business Saturday in the City of Norfolk, and urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. Is there anyone here tonight to receive the proclamation? It would appear not. So we will move on to item number 20 on the council agenda under public hearings and related action. I will open this public hearing for the Board of Equalization to hear and equalize the special assessments for paving district number 520. This is Walters East Knolls 14th edition. So first, in order to do so, I'd have to have a motion as mayor and council to convene as the Board of Equalization.
I'll make the motion. I'll second that.
Motion and second. If no discussion, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Motion carries.
Okay, so now we will kick off the public hearing on this item. And to kick it off and give us some background, we'll hear from Steve Ramus, our Public Works Director. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. Mayor and Council, before you, as the Mayor stated, is the Board of Equalization item for assessing Walters East Knolls most recent subdivision, specifically a paving district for that subdivision. There were 13 lots included in the paving district. The developer requested an equal distribution of the benefits for the lots. The lots are generally of the same size. The project had $283,800.62 in costs. $255,977.91 was the construction cost for the paving, which was generally included about 37 3,778 square yards of concrete paving, as well as 3,778 square yards of subgrade preparation and foundation course. Overhead costs on the project were $27,030.71 for, again, a total of $283,008.62. The city consumes the intersection portion of the project, which in this case is $38,003.12, leaving a portion accessible then to the adjacent properties of $245,005.50. In terms of benefits to the properties, obviously it improves the property's use for single-family residential usage. It enhances the public safety access from city services. Also enhances access to from the property into and out of the city during all types of weather. And again, as far as the developer is concerned, it allowed him to develop the property for single-family residences. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Any questions? Okay, this is a public hearing, so anyone wishing to make comment can do so. Okay. Seeing and hearing no one, I will move to close the hearing and ask for a motion to adjourn as Board of Equalization and reconvene as Mayor and Council.
I'll make the motion.
Motion second. If no discussion, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
Takes us to item 21. We'll look for a motion for consideration of approval of ordinance number 5856, levying special assessments in paving district number 520.
I'll make a motion for consideration of approval of ordinance number 5856.
I'll second that.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Short title, please.
An ordinance levying special assessments upon the lots, parts of lots, lands, and real estate abutting upon and adjacent to, and specially benefited by the improvements in paving district number 520 of the city of Norfolk, Nebraska, to defray the cost of said improvements and to provide for the publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
Okay, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance number 5836 carries on first reading.
Since I see no opposed, I'd make a motion we suspend the rules and move on second and third.
Second.
Motion and second to suspend the rules and approve on second and third readings. No further discussion. Please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance number 5836 carries on second and third.
Item 22, I will open this public hearing to consider amending Chapter 27, Division 5 of the official city code to change single-family residential district to 1 and 2 family residential district, to amend Chapter 27, Division 6 of code to change 1 and 2 family residential district to 1 to 4 family residential district, to amend Section 27-114 of the code to update height and area regulations in multiple family residential districts. And to open this public hearing and give us some background, we'll hear from Val Grimes, our city planner, please.
Thank you. These proposed amendments are before you for multiple reasons tonight. The first one is the city is required to have an affordable housing action plan before year end. Otherwise, there are state statutes that require code changes, which would be much less restrictive than what is proposed here. Second, this would bring particularly R1 zoning into compliance with what our 2017 comprehensive plan description of single family was adopted as. And three, this would also bring many of the older lots into conformity with the size and width and such that are in existence today. This proposed amendment deals with R1, R2, and R3 districts. If passed, this would allow 1 and 2 family units in R1, 1 to 4 family units in R2, and R2 currently allows up to 4 units with a conditional use permit, and if this passes, that would eliminate the need for the extra step for the CUP. and did not change the allowed uses in R3 as it already allows as one up to large multifamily units. The amendment also reduces some of the minimum lot widths and square footages. As we've heard, the cost of utilities, pavings, and such has continued to rise. For example, if a block could have 5 lots or units on it instead of 4, that would reduce the minimum lot size. Then the cost of infrastructure is less per lot with that division. This would actually add very little in the way, and it would be what a lot of people describe as general density, and it does not add drastically to traffic, parking, or density in a neighborhood. And there's actually many instances where there are already non-conforming duplexes and even 3 or 4 unit apartments in a neighborhood. It doesn't affect the neighborhood or neighbors negatively if they're even aware that that use is taking place. This proposed amendment could potentially result in some of the non-conforming uses in existence becoming conforming, so that if something were to happen to them, they might actually be able to rebuild, which you would not be able to do if they remained non-conforming. If there's any specific questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Well, I do have a couple of questions. So parking, any changes whatsoever on how many vehicles can be, or any restrictions on parking?
The parking was not changed with this, but this is a first step. It's something certainly that we can look into further. What did take place, as you'll see, normally it's a 25-foot front yard setback. We left the garage at 25, but brought the house forward to 15, so you could actually get more square footage of the house while still maintaining, like if you had a 1-car garage, the 1 space in the garage, and still enough depth for the driveway for your second parking. But that's something that we can look at in the future also.
Any other questions for Val?
So this will allow two families to live in one single house?
It would allow up to a duplex on a single-family detached lot in R1.
And so if that duplex doesn't have the parking requirements, there's nothing governing that right now? Can they just park in the yard and park on the street?
No, if somebody builds a duplex in R1 zoning, you would still need the 4 parking spaces. Yeah.
I think you hit on it, Val, but really the principle behind this was loosening up our existing residential zoning codes to promote more density, allow for more density within neighborhoods, which helps defray development and infrastructure costs. Is that an accurate way to say it?
Correct, yes.
Okay. All right, this is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to make comment can do so now. Okay, seeing and hearing no one, Planning Commission report, please.
The Norfolk Planning Commission held a public hearing on November 7th, 2023 to consider approval of an amendment to section 27-114 of the official city code to change single-family residential districts to 1 and 2 family residential district, to amend chapter 27 division 6 of the code to change 1 and 2 family residential districts to 1 to 4 family residential district, and to amend section 27-114 of the code to update height and area regulations in multiple family residential district. The Planning Commission recommends approval of the amendment with a 6-0 vote.
Okay, thank you. With that, I will close the hearing and we'll move to item 23 on the council agenda. I would entertain a motion to consider ordinance number 5857 to amend chapter 27, division 5 of the official city code to change single-family residential district to 1 and 2 family residential district, to amend chapter 27, division 6 of code to change 1 and 2 family residential district to 1 to 4 family residential district, and to amend section 27-114 of the code to update height and area regulations in multi-family residential districts.
I'll offer for consideration ordinance number 5857 to amend chapter 27, division 5, division 6, and section 27-114.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, short title, please.
An ordinance of the city of Norfolk, Nebraska to amend amend Chapter 27, Division 5 of the official city code to change single-family residential district to 1 and 2 family residential district, to amend Chapter 27, Division 6 of the code to change 1 and 2 family residential district to 1 to 4 family residential district, to amend Section 27-114 of the code to update height and area regulations in multiple family residential district, to provide when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and to provide for the publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
Okay, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance number 5857 carries on first reading.
Since there's no opposition to this, I would offer to waive the rules and
What's that?
suspend the rules and waive the second and third readings.
Okay,
Second.
motion is suspend the rules and approve on second and third readings. If no further discussion, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance number 5857 carries on second and third.
Okay, that brings us to our regular agenda. Item number 24, would look for a motion to consider ordinance number 5858 to reduce the speed limit on First Street from Norfolk Avenue to Prospect Avenue to 25 miles per hour.
I'll make a motion for consideration of ordinance 5858.
Second.
A motion and second. For some background on this, we'll hear from Chief Don Miller of the Norfolk Police Division. Evening, Chief.
Evening, Mayor and Council. This is a speed limit change that has came up because of the redevelopment on First Street near Johnson's Park. As we looked at this with the addition of the roundabout and with the developments of Johnson's Park and the additional foot traffic that's going to be there, engineering looked at it and recommended that the speed limit from Norfolk Avenue to Prospect Avenue be changed from 35 to 25. The police division looked at it. We agree. This would be a good move with the roundabout. You're going to have to slow down anyway, and this will provide a safer environment for the foot traffic that we expect to be as part of the redevelopment.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Any questions? Okay, don't think so. All right, any other discussion? Council.
What's the posted speed limit through the roundabout right now?
Advisory speed is posted at 15.
Okay. No further discussion, please vote. Public discussion. Seeing none. Okay, sorry. Short title, please.
An ordinance of the city of Norfolk, Nebraska to amend section 24-110 of the official city code to reduce the speed limit on First Street from Norfolk Avenue to Prospect Avenue, to provide when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and to provide for the publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
Okay, now please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance number 5858 carries on first reading.
Seeing no opposition, I'll make a motion that we suspend the rules and pass on second and third.
Motion and second to suspend the rules and approve on second, third readings. No discussion, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance number 5858 carries on second and third.
Okay, item 25, would look for a motion to consider ordinance number 5859, amending section 4-18 of the code to change a reference from cross animal to aggressive animal.
I'll offer for consideration ordinance number 5859.
Second.
Motion second. For some background on this, we'll hear from, again, Chief Don Miller.
Mayor and Council, this is basically a cleanup ordinance requested by the city attorney. We currently, and for a long, long time, have had an ordinance on the books where if somebody has an aggressive animal, they have the potential of being charged with a cross dog. And what has happened over the years is, in some cases, there's been some confusion that people believe a cross dog is being a cross-breed animal or a mixed breed animal versus an aggressive animal. This is just a cleanup ordinance to, instead of calling it a cross dog, we'll call it aggressive dog, which better fits the description and the definition. Doesn't change anything that we're doing other than making it easier for people to understand the ordinances and the charges as they may apply.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Any questions?
I'm just going to ask an odd one, I guess, but is aggressive used in other city codes? Because aggressive can mean so many different things. It just seems somewhat odd also.
Well,
If that
I
makes
don't know what
sense.
other ones do, but that's how we have defined the cross dog as an aggressive animal and acting in an aggressive manner. And then it, like I say, without researching, I don't know what the other communities are doing.
Yeah, I'm just curious what aggressive in the eye of a beholder is different than others, I guess. I don't know what our standard is, how we go at it. I'm not saying we need a big discussion on it. I think eventually we're gonna run into the same thing we did with cross. Just a thought.
Any other discussion or questions, council? Okay, thank you, Chief. Any public discussion? Okay, short title, please.
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska to amend Section 4-18 of the official city code to change a reference from cross animal to aggressive animal, to provide when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and to provide with the publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
Okay, with that, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Ordinance number 5859 carries on first reading.
I'll make a motion. We suspend the rules and pass on second and third.
Okay, motion second to suspend the rules and approve on second and third readings. If no discussion, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Ordinance number 5859 carries on second and third.
All right. Item 26 would look for a motion to consider ordinance number 5853 authorizing issuance of public safety tax anticipation bonds in the principal amount not to exceed $1.27 million. As a note, ordinance number 5853 was tabled at the November 6th City Council meeting.
I'll offer for consideration ordinance number,
A motion to remove
oh,
from the table.
I'm sorry. I'll make a motion to remove ordinance 5853 from the table.
Second.
Motion second to remove from the table. Please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Motion carries.
Okay, would now look for a motion to consider ordinance number 5853.
I will offer for consideration ordinance number 5853.
Second.
Okay, discussion. We'll have Randy Gates, our city finance officer, offer some background on this, please.
Yes, this ordinance authorizes issuance of public safety tax anticipation bonds to fund an ambulance, CAD, records management system, police software, in-car video replacement, and body cameras, fire station, police station, roof replacements, and outdoor warning sirens. The bond issue is expected to be $1,265,000. The ordinance authorizes a maximum issue size of $1,270,000, and a maximum true interest cost of 6.5%. The ordinance provides for the final interest rate, to interest cost, and aggregate principal amount to be determined in a written designation by the mayor or finance officer. This is a 14-year bond issue with a 5-year call provision. As I pointed out the last council meeting when this was considered, this is our standard method of financing police and fire public safety equipment that's in the CIP. That answer any questions?
Thank you, Randy. Any questions? And maybe just for a little more background on these, you said this is standard policy for how we finance some of these public safety improvements. These are state policy enabled finance mechanisms at which there is essentially no interest accrued. Is that accurate, Randy?
In this case, the interest rate we're going to be paying on the bonds will be less than the interest rate we're earning on the bonds. And if we issue these bonds in this calendar year, we qualify for a $5 million small issuer arbitrage rebate exemption. So any interest we earn in excess of the interest we pay, we can keep. Is that what your question was?
Yeah, I get to it. Yep. Okay. Any other questions for Randy?
So Rand, you're saying the money that we have right now, we're making more money on that interest than we'll be paying for this bond?
Yes.
How many years has this practice been in place, Randy?
That we use public safety tax anticipation bonds. I can't say for sure, but decades.
Okay. And each of these improvements was presented to the council. I recall at least several of these, if not all of them, being presented to subcommittees of the council and being built into the budget framework within the CIP, correct?
Yes, these are all budgeted capital items.
Okay. All right. Any further questions? Any public input?
Jim McKenzie, I guess I have a question in regards to your statement on interest. These bonds will be issued at a certain interest rate, correct?
That's correct.
And what is that interest rate?
We don't know. We haven't sold them yet. I expect it'll be under 5%.
So 4.5, something like that?
Probably 4.5
So
to a little more.
So the city will be paying interest on these bonds?
Yes.
Okay. The interest on $1.265 million at 4.5% over 14 years is about $442,000. So you will pay an additional $442,000 to borrow money for these items. So you're increasing the cost of the project by about 35%. Okay. I don't have any objection to the items themselves. I think that public safety, those are probably very worthy items. I guess my concern is, do we keep doing things the same way we've been doing them? Because now we're at $64 million and maybe $81 million in debt next year. So is it time to look at, do we need to make some adjustments? Do we need to look at the budget and make some adjustments as to what we're doing? Because you can't keep doing this and keep building up your debt. I looked at the budget, and I'm going to offer some thoughts for places where you could cut that you wouldn't have to issue any debt for this. You could just pay for it with cash out of your budget. In the CIP, there's $210,000 for administration window replacement, $782,000 for landscaping, $601,000 for unspecified council priority projects. An East Benjamin Avenue Trail was added late in the budget for $250,000. That adds up to $1.844 million. In the administration budget, travel, conference, and training, $86,000. Special studies, $50,000. Arts Council and Public Art, $84,000. Undergrounding the power on Northwestern Avenue, $81,500. Outsourcing ambulance billing, $85,000, and I think possibly that's on hold. That totals $387,000. Engineering, travel, conference, and training, $21,000. Office furniture, $17,000. Pavement management software and condition update, $56,000. And when I asked Mr. Ramos at a previous meeting why we didn't use that for our street repair analysis, he said that we don't have time to look at that. We don't have staff time to look at that. So if we're not using it, why are we spending the money on it? That adds up to $94,000. The total of those items, the CIP and just those two departments, that's all I looked at, is $2,326,000. So, are you willing to cut anything? Or are all of these somebody's pet project nobody's willing to to give an ounce? Are you willing to borrow money for 14 years at 4.5% interest to pay for each and every one of these items? Because that's what it comes down to. It's a simple numbers game. You're borrowing money for every item I listed if you're not willing to cut or reduce them. If you're willing to cut some of these items, you can greatly reduce or completely eliminate the need to borrow that money and pay that $442,000 of interest over 14 years. At some point in time, you've got to look at the budget and you've got to figure out what you have to spend, because you can't keep borrowing forever. Are you willing to cut anything? I guess that's no. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to comment? Any further discussion?
He comes up here, guys, and he lists all these things, and we just stay quiet. I'm not saying we need to go into the weeds, but I'm just saying, is there any response from city staff on the things that were just listed off?
I guess I would look at the council to see if there's any of those projects that he mentioned that you feel would not have merit, that you'd want us to carve out of the budget to pay for these.
This is where I feel, when just being a new councilman, where we do a 12-hour budget session, it's like drinking from a fire hose, and we run into stuff like this. And so now we're trying to make up for that 12-hour session, and we're saying, okay, should we do this or shouldn't we? So I think when we go to set the budget, we run into this stuff because the way our budget process works.
Do you think there's a better way to do it, Councilman?
Yeah, I think we should have more days, more time to digest the information and to be involved in the process. That's what I think. But that doesn't get the roof replaced on the police station today. That's what bothers me about it.
Right. My comment to all of that would be it's fairly easy to cherry pick some of these things that are in the CIP, but it's, I think, important to remember that these things aren't pulled out of thin air. I think we have a pretty responsible, a very fiscally responsible staff who makes recommendations on needed improvements, including things like taking care of the building that houses city offices, trails projects that have been recommended to the council by citizen committees, landscaping plan that goes back to a council that approved a master landscape plan in 2009, and it's been sitting in CIP for that many years without any action. These are not hastily called for revised things. These are things that have had a significant amount of consideration and deliberation, and that have been before the council before they're put into CIP and as they're put into CIP. So I think it's fairly easy to come up here and to characterize this as some kind of frivolous spending, or we're just wildly dreaming up things to spend money on. Not the case. Just not the case. And I think everybody up here who's had a little experience would acknowledge that.
I think I'll just add a little bit to this. I think Jim has some valid concerns occasionally, and we also had. I think we all kind of agreed this last budget seemed a little doing it in that one day, or that was a long day for all of us, and we've already talked about spreading that out a little bit, and I think we could probably do better at that. Years of experience help, obviously, do a better job and have a better understanding. But in all, we still sat through that meeting and we still went through every budget item from every department and voted on yes or no, and had long discussions on some items, obviously, right? Because it lasted so long. So those are budgeted items. Can some of them change? Yeah, possibly. But are you going to shut down certain parts of your city or not improve certain parts of your city to do something else. So in other words, are you never gonna do anything with parks, so you can do something with the police station? Are you never gonna do anything with streets, so you can do something with the police station? And I know the police station's a big topic, I really do. And I think every one of us citizens and council, we all live in this city, right? And we all want the best police possible and the best facilities possible, police, fire, you name it. But we can't not improve other parts of the city to just do one thing. We have to look at everything as a whole. And it is difficult decisions. And there is some bonding that, you know, hopefully we can make better. And I would say we're probably fiscally responsible in many cases where we pay off some bonding early. Probably in the majority of the time we pay it off early. So it's tough. I see where Jim's coming from. I really, really do. And I think we, as city council and as new ones come in, and you're not gonna be the newest, and somebody's gonna take my spot someday, and who knows, all of our spots someday, right? We have to think forward and help out each other, understand that, and ask a lot of questions in those budget meetings, and maybe they're gonna last longer, maybe they're gonna be a week long. Maybe we have to start them sooner, so we don't feel so crammed. I think that's came up in discussions too. I would say, yeah, staying quiet is, you know, giving Jim his due chance up there to discuss and his thoughts and how he feels, but we have to make a decision one way or another here. And the police obviously needs a roof, right. and it needs some renovations, and we're not there yet on making changes there, or adding on to that facility, or building a new one. It's not an easy decision. It never is. Sitting up here is not, but I think, let's not forget, we all still live in this community. Right? We all still pay taxes. We pay the same taxes everybody else does. We get frustrated at the taxes we pay too. So we look at it with the same eye. It's just we're in a different seat right now.
So Randy, unspent money. So if a department has unspent money, that goes back into the beginning balance. So all the things like what Jim listed off were budgeted for. If that's not spent in each division, it goes into the beginning balance. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Is there a way that we could do a bond where, say, we find the money in a budget cycle? So I think I heard you say we can't pay this off sooner than 5 years. Or can we pay it off sooner than 5 years?
This bond issue has a 5-year call provision, so you wouldn't be able to call those bonds and pay them earlier than 5 years.
5 years. Is that all safety bonds?
We can have call provisions less than that or more than that. Well, maybe not more than that, because Nebraska law in general says that general obligation bonds have to have a 5-year call or less. But we could pay those off, have a shorter call on there, where we'd be able to pay them off earlier. But that comes at a price. The bondholders don't want bonds called out from underneath them. Normally that happens when interest rates have gone down and cities want to refinance at a lower interest rate. So you're going to pay more in interest if you have a short call provision.
So the money that we're making in CDs or wherever our money's being held, what's the interest rate we're making on that money right now?
Say that again, Justin.
Like the money that we have invested in banks and that what's the interest we're getting paid on that money? Is it over what 5%?
We're earning about 5% on the money we've got invested. Probably would be purchasing an investment now. Just looking at the 1-year treasury yields, they're 5 1/4. You know, for the first 3 months, the yield curve's about 5.5%. So somewhere between 5 1/4 and 5.5% is what our new money will be getting, or maybe more. That's the floor. We always bid it out with the local banks. We can't get at least what the treasury rate is. We buy a treasury. So that's the floor. If banks need money and want money, they will bid more than that.
Randy, how long have you worked for the city of Norfolk?
40 years.
How many times has your fiscal staff been recognized by national accounting agencies for its work?
We received the GFOA budget award for, I'd have to look, I think it's 20-some years. And the certificate of achievement for financial reporting even longer than that.
Yeah. I think Corey's been on a little bit longer than I have on the council. Ever since I came to the council, year in, year out, that recognition has been consistent, and it's for a reason. And I think that it's important to keep in mind here that Randy and the fiscal staff, who have been doing this for a long time, are comfortable with using this finance practice to pay for these improvements. And I think he's telling us he's comfortable in doing so for a couple different reasons. I think Corey, Councilman Granquist, hit on one, in my mind, the deferred maintenance, the cost of deferred maintenance. So we could scrape together 1.3 million right now and take it away from other projects. But what does that mean down the line in terms of eventually having to address them? I've seen the consequences of deferred maintenance in my time as council and mayor, and frankly, kicking the can down the road on projects and putting them off only makes them cost more in the long run. I think we've seen that in street conditions of our streets. So I would give fair warning about that. Also, Councilman Webb, you brought up the general fund. It's important. One of the goals that we've adopted as a mayor and council over recent years was keeping a recommended general reserve balance. That was quite low compared to other cities across the state that we've tried to build up, but using these finance mechanisms allow for us to have a cash reserve to be used when necessary. Randy, I'd welcome your comments on that as part of the rationale for using public safety bonds in the first place.
What was the question?
In terms of utilizing public safety bonds to ensure that we can maintain a healthy cash reserve for emergencies.
Correct. I mean, if we don't use public safety tax anticipation bonds, we either need to do something like Jim suggested and defer other items or pay down fund balance. And our fund balance is low compared to other first-class cities our size. It's also low compared to area governmental entities. We're not awash in cash when you compare it to similar entities either in Norfolk or across the state. So I don't think paying down fund balance is a wise thing to do.
Thank you, Randy.
I want to add one more thing to my thought. I thought even more. It is our duty, and just I think what Jim's referring to, it is our duty to consciously look at every different expenditure and do we need it? Is it a need or a want? I think he said that before as he's come up here. So as we work through the year, as we get into next budget and we think of those things, maybe that's the questions we need to ask each other. Is that a need or a want, and where can that money go? Can it go to paying off some bonds early? And where does that sit us responsibly taking care of every department in the city, but also responsibly paying that debt off? And so we definitely can do better. I think everybody can find ways that you can do better in your individual lives and businesses. So that's something I think we need to consciously look at and do better at, no doubt about it.
Councilman Webb. Jim specifically pointed out a piece of software that we use for payment management, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you or council might have around that. We've been doing payment management scans on our city street system. I think we started in 2009 was the first year we did that. We were using a company based out of Minneapolis. We changed companies in 2019. I think they did their first scan in 2020. A company called Streetlogics. We acquired that scan in late summer 2020. There's two components to that. First one's called Street Scan. The second one's called Street Logic. The Street Scan gives us, at least from the software's perspective, what the payment condition is for our city street system. And we use that as verification of where we're spending our limited resources for payment repairs, payment restoration, payment reconstruction. Essentially, that scan software looks at the deterioration or of the various pavements, asphalt, concrete, scores them, and gives us a colored map back of the city streets. And there's certainly value to that, and we do look at that as we're again spending those resources. Unfortunately, right now, it's not hard to spend our resources. There's much more need than there is resource there. And so we're certainly not able to hit as much as we would like to. The Street Logic side is the side that we don't look at too much. That is the side that contains the database of our street system with whether it's concrete, asphalt, and the actual payment condition of each one of those. As we go forward, and as the condition of our city street system as a whole comes up from somewhere in the low 60s, as we start to get into the mid 70s, that particular side of the software becomes much more important because it becomes much harder to see visually where you need to spend your dollars. And as we develop, we as the city have to have the staff time to put into that side of the software, and it takes a reasonable amount of staff time to build the cost data, build the various scenarios of repair, maintenance, reconstruction, rehab, and get all that into that side. That is something that we have not spent a lot of time doing, or since we've had the software here in the last 3 or 4 years. We just haven't had the resource to develop that side of the software. We have, in the last couple months, been having those conversations with Streetlogics, looking at our database with staff. Just today, in fact, we spent a couple hours this morning after staff meeting looking at that data. But it gets much harder to take that $3 million, $4 million and spread that across our system and make sure that we're spending it where we're getting the biggest bang, maintaining the maximum amount of condition across our system. So it's very important as we go forward. As I mentioned, we did our scan in 2020. We did not scan it in 23. About a 3-year cycle is desirable. We did not see the benefit of spending that money last year, so we pushed that over to this year. We're still having that conversation as to whether or not we're ready to do that this year, or whether we want to wait 1 more year with this $5 million of infusing over the next couple of years. We're thinking that maybe it makes sense to wait, but we're still analyzing that and having that conversation. The DOT, as an example, they scan 100% of the state system annually. Their condition, their payment condition is up above 90. And so again, it is when your payment condition is that high, it's very hard for the human to really run through all the different scenarios of where you could spend your dollars and get the best bang for the dollar. We are looking at a scan every 3 to 4 years. And I think that's very reasonable for a city of our size for the funding that we're putting into our city street system. And again, as we have staff and resources, we're going to start putting a lot more resource into that street logic side of the software.
So when you say 90, is that the quality of the streets?
That's the quality, yeah. It's from,
What
runs
was our
from 1 to
quality?
100.
What was our quality, Steve, when you started at Norfolk?
We're in the low 60s.
And that's what decades of deferred maintenance will get you.
So this is the 94,000 that Jim was talking about. That
I think it's 45,000 in the budget. 55. Yeah. There was a street sign component to that for GIS. I think if we just go with the street scan and that data, that's about 45, 48. And there's another potential to capture all the data for our street signs so that we could start managing those through a GIS system, an asset management system.
Justin, you mentioned about we need to fix the police department roof now, and I completely agree with that. You can do that today. You don't need to issue bonds for that. You've got the money in the budget. It's just a matter of moving it from one bucket to the next. So it's there. You could do that, start on that project tomorrow. But what I'm saying, just 2 items in your budget, well, unspecified council priority projects, you got $601,000 in that, unspecified. You don't even know where you're gonna spend it. So that could be applied and do the roof today. So there's no holdup on that. It's not gonna slow anything down. You could say, you can say that we're gonna give our unspecified council priority project $601,000 and we're gonna apply it to those projects.
I'll interrupt you there, Jim, because I don't think that's true. I don't know that they're lined out in the budget, but there are commitments from city council priority dollars set and arranged.
What Jim's
Correct.
referring to is those that have been budgeted to be spent like we do every year, but they have not been put towards a specific project. So he's correct that those dollars are available to be spent, but that's the balance of your council priority. And as throughout a given year, there are projects that council does come up with that you would like to spend those funds on.
Right.
And then just the other item that jumps out is you got $782,000 in landscaping. So those 2 items alone pay for more than 100% of this. You save the $442,000 of interest that you will accrue, but you have to make some choices. Are those things, unspecified monies and landscaping, more important than issuing debt and paying $442,000 of interest over 14 years? A simple decision. So,
Jim, I know you're not for landscaping, but some people think it's important.
Yeah. And again, I would go back, that wasn't just pulled out of thin air. That is a master landscape plan that was passed by a council in 2009 that has never been acted upon. And I don't want to lose sight here, and I don't want to belabor this discussion, but we are talking about financing public safety needs that are immediately before us. We heard Chief Miller talk about water leaking on our new dispatch center 2 weeks ago. Chief Rogge's here, can talk about the fire station needs if he'd like to. But this is an ambulance, a decision that was put off earlier this year because we punted a decision on public safety bonds, which I think put us one short ambulance out on the streets. Body cameras, in-car cameras for the police, all of these things that are needed and probably needed yesterday. And I hope we don't lose sight of the fact. This came into the budget the way it did because our very fiscally conservative fiscal staff recommended it that way at the beginning of the budget process. I do place a lot of trust in them.
Brandon, can you go through a list of what this is all for? I know it's in the enclosure, but do you have a list of all what the 1.2 million's?
Yes, if you want that written down, I can do that for you. There's $286,256 for an ambulance. $99,914 for the police software, the CAD and RMS, $20,000 for in-car video replacement and body cameras, $564,630 for the police and fire roof replacements, and $120,000 for warning sirens.
I think it's a lot to ask the departments to find $1.2 million in their budgets to pay for this. I think this should have been a topic brought up around budget time, and I think we're in the 12th hour, and the fire department and the police department was the foundation of our communities waiting on a decision. So it's just unfortunate, but I don't expect the departments to cut $1.2 million out of their budget in the next few days to say what they have isn't important and what the police station has is in the fire department.
Yeah.
So it's just a tough situation.
I think that's fair, Councilman, but I would note that these different projects were discussed as part of the budget. Again, they're not just coming to us because we discovered last week we need them. They've been part of a budget cycle, and this is traditionally how as Randy noted, how public safety improvements have been financed. It's not new. Is there any other discussion?
Name is Tim Ernst, and I don't have a problem fixing a police station, fire, that kind of stuff that needs to be done. But I understand budgets are a necessary tool in business and city and whatever. But on the same point, it's a flawed system. Because if I give Thad in your, $100,000, when that next year comes around, if you only spend $90,000, then you don't want your budget cut for the following year, so you're going to go ahead and spend that $10,000 on whatever. And a prime example of that was the Parks Department last year, and they spent $60-some thousand on a skid loader that could have been borrowed from the city. You can kind of switch stuff around a little bit, and instead of penalizing people that stay under their budget, let's try and reward them somehow for doing the job, a good job. And I think there's probably some fluff in that budget that could be cut. You can't just wipe stuff out completely, but I'm sure there's some fluff somewheres, and we might have to borrow a little money, but not all of it. And that's all.
Thank you.
Brad Brooks. There are a lot of items that are part of this entire package, but I want to talk to one of them, and that's the roof repair for the police station. We've got, I don't know how many of you have been over there and took a look at it. There's buckets sitting around collecting rainwater and whatever. If we somehow, all that money that's been invested in the dispatch center goes south, they're going to be up here looking for that money. And We need to figure it out. I don't disagree with all the speakers, the questions, anything, but this got tabled once, and I'm really concerned because in the last 2 or 3 months, there's been a lot of things tabled. At some point, you gotta make the decision. We've gotta pay for this. We spent money to update that dispatch center. It's state-of-the-art. It's handling a lot more than what it did before, and we need to take care of it. And the first thing to do is get the roof repaired. So.
Thank you, Brad. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Mayor and Council, I don't want to reiterate the stuff that's already been talked about, but I do want to bring up a couple additional things. There's been a lot of conversation about the roof, and so I'm not going to even go there. But of the other things, there's a variety of things, and these are things that we have talked about for years. One of the examples that I'll talk about briefly is the CAD RMS. CAD RMS stands for Computer-Aided Dispatch Records Management System. That's the computer software that we use day to day for our dispatching, for our records management, for our officers when they're MDTs. And the system, and we've been wanting to update that for years, but it's been deferred for a variety of reasons. There's always financial crunches or whatever, and we've deferred it. We've gotten to the point where we really needed to do something. The system that we were using is a system that was originally installed in, I believe, 1991. Anybody who knows computer software knows that from 1991, we've had updates along the way. It's still a good system, but it is no way compatible with all of the new products that we have. We've already signed the agreements. Council approved it. We're halfway into the implementation process. It's going to be a phenomenal tool that will save us significantly more than what it's costing us in man hours and resources. And that's just one of the things that we're dealing with here. The body cams, we've been trying to do body cams for years as well, for a variety of reasons that I won't get into now. Those have also been deferred for numerous years. We should have had body cameras years ago. We try to be as fiscally conservative as we can, and we defer things when we have to take our turn. We're deferring items so other other divisions in the city, they might have a need. We all work together for that. Now we're having the conversation about asking other divisions to defer for the police and the fire, and I'm just letting you know that the city is one entity. We all work together. We all have to work to make every department work well. Of course, my focus is on the police department. These are things that we've talked about. You guys have already talked about them. You guys have approved them in the budget process. Now we're just in the process of issuing the bonds to pay for them. So I just wanted to add and see if you had any questions and have the opportunity to answer any questions if you had any.
Thank you, Chief. That perspective's helpful. That background's helpful. That CAD demonstration of what we have versus what's needed today, I think happened months ago, and it was astounding to see how antiquated existing software had gotten. Chief, I did have one question for you, though. I'm sorry. When these needs within public safety were grouped together to be financed with public safety anticipation bonds, and I know you're not part of fiscal staff, but was that unusual or uncommon from what you've seen pay for these improvements?
I don't see the end product. I see the CIP process and the identification process. And part of that CIP process that was presented to all of the discussions, it has the item that we are looking at getting the estimated cost and how it's going to be financed. And it will talk in there if it's going to be paid with bonds. And so we see that in our capital project every year as part of that. So the budget that we already did and we approved outlined that these items were going to be purchased with bonds.
Okay. The public safety bond issuance for these is a year to year, has been a year to year occurrence. Yeah. Thank you. All right.
Mayor and Council, just wanted to touch on a few things. Chief Miller said it well. I mean, I think we can all agree that the people that make up the employment or the employees in the city of Norfolk are our most important asset, our employees. In the public safety world, our dispatch center is right on its heels. And the investment that has been put into that dispatch center over the last few years is incredible. We are extremely proud of that. I'm extremely proud of our dispatchers and all the work that's put in over there. So for this to get pushed down the road any further, in my mind, would be completely unacceptable. I understand you all have tough decisions to make, but that is extremely important to not only the citizens in Norfolk, but the surrounding counties that we serve from a dispatch center. Regarding the fire items in there, the ambulance, obviously, that's our bread and butter. That's what we do. We used to run those ambulances 19 to 20 years a crack, and because of the increased call volume, we've been trying to squeeze that down to 13 to 15 years, and we've had a pretty good rotation. So it's imperative that we keep that, with 86% of our calls being EMS calls. The sirens, severe weather sirens, we're playing catch up on those, trying to get those all taken care of, a few at a time, while trying to get grants as often as we can to help cover that. The other items in there, our roof is the same age as PD's roof, seen the same storms, and we've had the same type of leaking. It's just fortunately not over a brand new dispatch center. So, and Station 2's in there as well, as you all saw. That's an asphalt shingle roof that is original, and up there, wind tends to be an issue, so we've been patching that the last several years. So I don't envy the job that you have here and the position that you're in, but I can tell you with 100% certainty that when these items came up, we did our part to make sure it was responsibly taken care of and present you with something that's accurate and that you can trust us on. So I'd field any questions if you have them for me.
We're not tabling nothing, Tim. We're going to vote.
Thank you, Chief.
Jan Haberman, just a couple of comments. The people of the city of Norfolk want these improvements. It's public safety. We need them, and we don't want them to be delayed. So this is very important to us. The second thing is that it's the way you want to pay for it, borrowing the money all the time. Why wasn't the levy, the mill levy, put up a little higher so that this money would have been in the budget originally? I know, Mayor, that you commented that we were the third lowest levy in the state. That's a wonderful concept to have. But if it means that we have to borrow money, we're not saving anything. Just put the levy where it should be, so it will cover these items. This is like a cat and mouse game. This hand doesn't know what this one. Just put the levy there, get it done, so that we can have the needs of our city covered. That just doesn't make sense, to put a low levy and then not have the money and have to go borrow it for another $400,000 or whatever. And it's happening time and time again. You hear this, we're borrowing money. Please, put the levy up if that's what you need. I think the citizens of this city will much more want to do that and pay for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Anyone else wishing to speak? All right, any further discussion, council? Okay, hearing none. There's not a short title on this, is it? Short title, please. Yep.
It's not short.
Okay.
An ordinance authorizing the issuance of public safety equipment tax anticipation bonds of the city of Norfolk, Nebraska, in the principal amount of not to exceed $1,270,000 for the purpose of purchasing public safety equipment and public safety building improvements and miscellaneous costs associated therewith, directing the application of the proceeds of said bonds, prescribing the form of said bonds, providing for the levy and collection of taxes to pay the same, authorizing the delivery of the bonds to the purchaser, authorizing the officers of the city to make arrangements for the sale of the bonds and to designate the final terms, rates, and maturity schedule for said bonds within stated parameters, and ordering the ordinance published in pamphlet form.
With that, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance number 5853 carries on first reading.
Just to make a point, if we're going to get the arbitrage rebate exemption, this would have to be done at this meeting so we could get them issued this calendar year.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules and waive the second and third readings.
Second that.
Motion second to suspend the rules and approve on second and third readings. No further discussion, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance number 5853 carries on second and third.
All right, item number 27, would look for a motion to consider ordinance number 5855, amending the dates and times that permissible fireworks may be discharged and limiting the dates and times that permissible fireworks may be sold. Ordinance number 5855 passed on first reading as amended at the November 6th council meeting.
I'll offer for consideration ordinance 5855.
Second.
Motion and second, and just for a refresher and a little background on this, Andy Colvin, our city administrator.
Sure, thanks, Mayor and Council. We'll try to stay with me here. I'll do a brief recap of kind of how we got here. So at the last, on the November 6th council meeting, staff did bring forth an ordinance. The original draft did shrink the number of days from 10 days to 7 days. And then also took the hours down as well. And those hours that we originally proposed were from noon to 11 p.m. So after some discussion at the last council meeting, an amendment was made, which the city attorney's office did make those changes from the last council meeting. So the ordinance you have today is the ordinance that has been amended on first reading that does basically go to the 10, it goes back to the 10 days. And it basically changes the sale and discharge from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. on July 25th through July 3rd. And the times on July 4th have not been changed from what they are currently today.
Okay, thank you, Andy. Any discussion, council? Or
I'll start. Looks like a couple of us are going to talk here, but I've had some discussions and some thought. People asking me questions about why and what changed and what happened, and through those discussions, the January 3rd has come up many a times. Matter of fact, every time through those discussions of the 10 o'clock time frame on January 3rd with Independence Day, or sorry, July. January's coming. Let's light them off for New Year's. Let's change this and add it for New Year's too. Sorry. So July 3rd, Independence Day, July 4th is a day off, and most people, if it's during the week, would light fireworks off on July 3rd, knowing they have the next day off, Independence Day off. Lighting them on Independence Day and having to work on July 5th doesn't typically happen. I know it does happen. We all hear it. But the majority of people would light off the day before. You know, you're going to hear it on the 4th if it's on a Friday. You're going to hear it on the 4th if it's on a Saturday. But if it's in the middle of the week, typically you're going to hear it on the 3rd. So I think it's some discussion to have. I'm in a somewhat of a dilemma here, I guess, because obviously I voted for 10 o'clock on July 3rd. I think personally we can have a little bit of discussion here, but I'm leaning towards amending the amendment to make July 3rd be a something like midnight, just like it is on 4th of July, Independence Day. But my other thought is I also don't want to necessarily table it because we have 2 gone today, and I won't be here at the next city council meeting. So tabling it and then not showing up seems kind of odd for myself to do that also, unless it got tabled for a couple weeks or a couple more meetings. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm not going to. I'm open to listen to some more discussion on it, but that's what I'm hearing before I ever make a motion here.
That's exactly what I was going to say. So I agree with Corey. At to midnight on the 3rd as well.
I guess, and we can have plenty of more discussion. There's probably people in the public want to talk about that too. Danny's not here, and I don't know how this works. Having the original coming forward as amended with one reading, and then amending an amendment, you go back to the first reading on an amended ordinance.
How we would, if there was an amendment made, you'd vote on that amendment, and then we'd have a new amendment, or a new motion to approve as amended on first reading. Because right now, what is before you is second reading.
Similar to like we did last
Right.
2
So
weeks.
if there was an amendment that passed, then we would have another motion to approve that, so it would only be on first reading this time.
Any other discussion? Anyone from the public wishing to speak?
Hi, David Rogge. I've done fireworks, I've done tents, I've done everything. I know it's probably already long gone because I couldn't make it last time, but I hope you guys are keeping the 10 days still, which it sounds like. But I had an amendment as to like, what if you guys could do just all of July? Maybe just the 4 days be to midnight. Because some people like to shoot fireworks on different days. Like somebody might like to shoot them on the 3rd, and then like on the 4th be like, or the 2nd be like, my show is better than yours or something. They might like to shoot on a different day. Or like if the weekends, I know it'd be a little confusing, but like Friday, Saturday, you can maybe, I don't know, change that every year maybe. I don't know, that'd be kind of complicated, but I just wanted to throw that out. So maybe, but 10 o'clock I think is too early even anywhere in July, because a lot of people buy a lot of fireworks sometimes, and it's pretty hard to shoot fireworks within an hour if you buy like $3,000-4,000. So, but I was just thinking maybe do the 4th, whole July, maybe to midnight. Just throwing that out there. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that's how it's currently written. The 4th of July to midnight is within it. Don't. Anyone else wishing to comment?
I just want to bring it back up to council and just to have it out there that this was brought back to us for a reason. And it definitely, I can pretty surely say it wasn't the businesses. We had enough people in the community to push this forward, to have it in front of us for a, excuse me, for a reduction or some kind of change. And it's never been about stop the sale of fireworks. And these stories for me have been not about the businesses, but about personal feelings and the way these fireworks have been making people feel. There's been pros and cons. The veterans, patriotic, then you have the veterans that have issues with the sound and the noise. And for 10 days, that's really tough. So I just want to bring that back to light. I know we've got a 10-10-10 issue in front of us, but and forgive me if I miss somebody, but the stories I heard from people that would like a reduction of personal, whether it be family or themselves, of this bothers me for a reason, versus a lot of the businesses, it hasn't been personal. Yes, there's been, well, we fund or we do fundraisers. I would like to see those people come up and say why. I've had one person reach out to me and told me why. They were 16, 17 years old, worked their butt off for their car. I hadn't heard anybody else say that. But the people that's come up that's been opposed to it or would like a reduction, there's been a personal reason. It's not to get rid of fireworks, but to reduce. And I'll tell you a couple things that are a fact that the survey, like I said the last meeting, 3% of the population, 3%. That would have been encompassed to that. Now, I'm trying to listen to the people that I've heard from the most. So the original reducing it from 10 days to 7 days, nobody's gonna stop buying fireworks. They're gonna do like we always have done, in times of change. They're gonna adjust. We're gonna adjust. They'll go by the fireworks in that 7-day span if we so, and I know I'm in the minority here, but if that happens to change, I just wanna keep focus back on why we are here and having this conversation. It was 'cause people asked us to at the end of the day. So even if we reduced it from 10 days to 7 days, I tell you what, it's gonna be 3 days less of potential accidents. It's gonna be 3 days less of the fire department and the police department having stress calls or issue calls, or even, hey, they're shooting after midnight.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other discussion? Hey, you had your chance, David. If we have time at the end, you can come back up, but you have to come forward to the podium, okay? All right, Chief.
Mayor and council, I know that there's going to be a lot of opinions running on this, and it's up to you guys to make those decisions. And as far as whatever you decide, it's not, I don't believe it's going to have a significant effect on the law enforcement response. But the one thing I want to get on the record as you're debating this, and I believe it's that way in the ordinance right now, is keeping it so that the sale and the discharge is the same. From a law enforcement perspective, if people can buy them, then they go down, and if they're going to assume that they can shoot them. So as you make your debates, I just want to get on the record of saying that the sale and the discharge, I would prefer that stay the same in the timeframes. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
First, thank you, Mr. Snorton. I'm Nancy Lammers for saying what you just said, because it is personal for me. One, I have a question for July 11th, so somebody needs to help me here. You want to, excuse me, July 3rd, you want to move it to midnight. What is it right now for July 3rd?
11 o'clock.
So why do we want to go an hour later on July 3rd? I am a person who gets up and goes to work. I get up at 4 a.m. Monday through Friday to go to work. Okay? This past year, I could not go to bed before midnight because of the fireworks in my neighborhood. And when you call the police, which is one reason we hate to call the police because they have enough to do at that time of the year, but I call the police, they come, but you know how it is. They're never shooting them off by the time the police get there. Nobody's fault, that's just the way it is. I am happy with the 10 to 10 if that's what we have to be. I would love to see it go down to 7 days. When you use Mother Nature as an excuse that maybe you lose a day of selling fireworks, let's talk to construction workers, let's talk to landscapers, let's talk to a farmer. Mother Nature is not a reason to extend fireworks. So I'm happy with the 10 to 10. I appreciate that you went down to that. I'd love it to see it to go to 7 days, but I don't see you going that direction. But extending it on July 3rd to midnight when it's only 11 now, I don't see that.
Could I ask you, yeah, we have the 10 to 10, but would 11 o'clock be? And I know you'd rather it probably be 3 days.
Yeah,
and even
I'm
less
one of
time,
those
but,
people that has a dog.
Yeah.
For 3 years, I have tried thunder shirts. I have tried medication. I have even bought pet CBD oil. Everything makes him throw up. He quivers, he shakes. Last time we were here, November 6th, you made a comment, that, well, maybe you could just go on vacation.
I didn't say that. No.
You didn't say it when the discussion was going on.
No.
But I heard it.
No,
and
not for me.
Near here, they're there. There are people that do go on vacation. I financially can't afford to take 2 people and a dog for 10 days. So for those comments to be said, I also went to veterans' homes and at the veteran home and asked them. There aren't a lot of people there that want the fireworks out there. I'm not saying that there weren't some, but there are not a lot of people. When they have to leave them in their rooms for those 10 days with earmuffs on or music playing, that's not right. And you heard a man, a veteran, came and said he'd like to see 2 to 3 days. That's wishful thinking. Some cities do it, but this city is not going to do it. That's apparent. But if we could just go not to that 11 o'clock or midnight thing, that would help me. So I'm one of those personal people, but it affects not just me. Question?
I don't know if I have a question. I'm in the same boat as you in many aspects. I said it at the last meeting, you probably heard it. I wake up at 3:30 every day.
Mm-hmm.
My dog's also afraid of fireworks. My dog's afraid of an airplane flying over. Some walks are long, some walks are short. It's just the way it is. So I have those 10 days where I don't get a lot of sleep either. I can tell you I did not, and I guarantee it, did not tell anybody to go on vacation for those 10 days. I'll stand by that. But I also have many, many, many veterans that are on the opposite side and say, we fought for this right, and we want to hear fireworks, and we want to light fireworks. And I know it comes from both sides. That's the difficult part. And I also know people have animals that chase fireworks. Now, I know that's a few and far between, right? But there's many of veterans that enjoy every bit of the aspect of having fireworks also.
And I think I just said
So
that,
that's
that
tough.
there are some, and I am not in disagreement with you. But I also had a situation this year when after you could not be shooting fireworks, and a very loud fireworks went off in my neighborhood, when we called the police officer defended that man. No, there's a city ordinance that says on about July 11th, you can't be shooting off fireworks. So it's kind of upsetting too when your police officer is defending your neighbor who's shooting off fireworks at illegal times. I mean, we deal with that in our neighborhood.
I think we all do a little bit. I agree.
I
I
know,
have one
and
that lights it
I am
off every
not
time we.
blaming the police, the police department, but it's very frustrating, and I think in some respects we have forgotten what the 4th of July is, and I believe it wasn't about shooting fireworks. Any other questions?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
My name is Kathy Sanders, and I'm not going to beat a dead horse again, but I do own Fly By Night along with my partners. My husband is not here. He is currently working a 12-hour night shift. So that's one thing that I do know about is shift work and understanding that the rules are, lighting the fireworks is from 10 to 10. That's fine, but you cannot enforce something on me that the public doesn't abide by. So I just appreciate that if you would hold it to what Frank suggested, the 10 to 10. I would like it to see from 10 to midnight on the 3rd, but I will take your support on what Frank suggested and go with that. So I appreciate your support. Thank you.
So, in other words, you're okay with the existing ordinance, the ordinance that's before us tonight, as it was amended 2 weeks ago?
I would like it to be amended to midnight, but if that doesn't happen, I would be surprised for 10 to 10.
Understood. Thank you.
Hi, I would like to address Councilman Norton, saying that you have not heard from many people the positive aspects or how it affects them personally. I will admit, when I first started selling fireworks, there were times that I felt guilty because some people do spend a lot of money on their fireworks. And then I realized that it's not about just the fireworks, it's about the families and the memories that they are creating with their families. So it's much bigger than just you know, lighting the firecrackers. It's the family memories. You also spoke of a teenager saving money for a car. And I believe I spoke a couple weeks ago. My daughter, at 18, was managing a fireworks stand to pay for college. She's done it for 3 years. She's planning to do it until her college is paid for. She has learned a lot by doing this. And I'm very proud of her. It's a lot of work. It's a ton of work. Also, I have a group of cheerleaders that run a fireworks stand as well, and the life skills that they are learning, the customer service skills that they are learning as a result of this is phenomenal. So this is my personal story, and there are a lot of good things that come from these kids getting these experiences. And I would agree that on the 3rd, I would like to go later, because when the 4th does fall during the week, people do celebrate on the 3rd rather than on the 4th, because they do have to go to work the next day. So, thank you.
Ma'am, can you state your name for the record?
Yes, I'm sorry, Janet Miller.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
Kurt Lammers, and I made sure I write my name right this time so I didn't get misquoted in the paper as last time. But I know it's the 3rd time before you guys, and I understand what everybody's saying. You know, people like fireworks, you know, the raising money, things like that, but we can do that in 7 days too. It's not like we're asking you to give up fireworks. All these things can be done in 7 days. You're not going to lose that much money, like we said before. People are probably going to buy more within those 7 days. So I really think if you're going to amend it to midnight on the 3rd, let's go back to 7 days then instead of 10, if you're going to do the amendment. Okay. And I know I've heard, you know, comments like, well, we'll just deal with it and things like that. I really felt bad when the veteran came up here and talked about, you know, how he is affected by it. He was pretty short, but you could tell that there are people out there, and many animals are affected by it. And to me, it's just a question of, I like fireworks. Yeah, boom, they're fun. Okay, I understand that. Against people that are suffering. And we can't cut that back to 7 days. That's what floors me. You're still going to have fireworks. We're just trying to cut it back a little bit. Give these people a break for like 3 days, so we don't have to hear it over and over. And like my wife said too, there are people that also have to get up early in the mornings, and they shouldn't have to be affected by that. We do have the 4th of July. Celebrate it. We'll give you another couple days. 7 days is a lot. We don't have to do it for 10. So please, if you do amendment, I'm fine if you want to go a little bit longer on the 3rd, but let's cut back to 7 days then. Seems fair to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Sarah Abler with Fly By Night Fireworks. First of all, I would like to reiterate that the subcommittee decided to not change anything. And then all of a sudden it got down to, it was brought before the council to 7 days, which then got amended. I'm happy we're back to 10 because it's important for us and the people that work with us. Councilman Snorton, you said that you discounted the Norfolk Daily News poll because it only represented 3% of the population. When you talk about all these people that called you, if you add all those up, that's far less than 1% of the population. So, and I could call each of you, and the conversation would probably go more than 5 minutes. If you want all these people to call each of you and have a conversation that lasts over 5 minutes, or you can just kind of take a snapshot of the people that responded, and that's a pretty good segment of people who are interested in it. I would like and I'm an animal lover. Our animals don't like it either. We're very patriotic. We have vets and those serving in the military in my family right now. So I can appreciate that. But again, it's 10 days and the weather is still an issue because we put a lot of work into that and we take out a loan to buy our fireworks a year in advance. That's just the way the system is. And when we have to deal with Mother Nature with wind or drought or rain, we're sitting on a loan for on inventory and paying off a loan for another year. So I would like it to go later on the 3rd in case the 4th falls on a Wednesday or Tuesday. I think that's when people do the fireworks, is on the 3rd. And when we have the 10 days, there's 2 weekends. If it's 10 o'clock on the earlier Friday and Saturday, is 10 o'clock really reasonable on a weekend night when it doesn't even get dark until 9 o'clock? I would like to see it actually go till 11 on the Friday and Saturday of prior to the 4th. So if we do have 2 weekends to sell, people who work every other weekend or have to share their kids with the next spouse, they have a full evening to do their fireworks with their family. And I think just being considerate of your neighbors, those that, have people that work shift work, and we know all about shift work, say, hey, we're doing our show tomorrow night, just to let you know, and try and just work it out with your neighbor, and the police have a hard time enforcing it. So do you really want to pass an ordinance to have more people calling for somebody doing it after 10 when there's probably going to be a lot of people doing it? I think you should pass something that is reasonable and enforceable.
Thank you.
10-10-10 is catchy, but I don't know if it's very realistic.
Anyone else wish to comment?
Okay, Stacy Anderson, and I just had a few comments. I don't know if it matters or not. We do the Bellino fireworks stand, so 5 of 6 of ours are fundraisers for youth, and we probably have every year somebody from the vets home, nursing homes coming in and asking us to help them shop for their fireworks display. So I do think that that is a hard decision to make because you have those who love it for that patriotism and you have those that don't. The one thing on the discharge time, as I thought about it after the last council meeting, was possibly a compromise. And I don't know if this would be confusing, but I think it comes down to the police being able to enforce it. So as Sarah had commented, I don't know if it can be 10 o'clock Monday or Sunday through Thursday nights, and then Fridays and Saturdays be 11 o'clock with the exception of the 3rd and the 4th at midnight, like if they fall throughout a weekday. I don't know, because on Fridays and Saturdays, I don't really know if people are going to stop at 10 o'clock, and your people that stop at 10 o'clock are probably your people now that actually listen and stop at 11 o'clock. So again, I don't know if that would be confusing, but I just thought I would bring that up as a compromise of Sunday through Thursday, 10 o'clock, and then Friday and Saturday, 11 o'clock, for the odd times that there are 2 weekends within those 10 days. And the last comment I have, which might be kind of weird, but it would be really nice if all stands and selling locations were required to post the discharge times. Because when people come to us and ask, how long can we light these off? And I remember the first year we ran the stand and I'm like, I don't know. I just know when we can sell them to you. So I think that if we would be required, all locations, to post the discharge times, I don't know if that would help enforce the discharge times, but whatever the discharge times are, whatever they're decided on, that's what they are. And so then we can help do our job of enforcing, or at least educating people that buy the fireworks of when their discharge time is. So Columbus does that, and I don't think we need all the sign requirements Columbus has because you don't read them, there's too many. But I do think that just having the discharge times available at all locations would be helpful. So I think that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Make it short, David, please. Okay.
I just want to comment on hers about the vets home and her too. ISO Fireworks, and they have come and bought fireworks, and they have helped me, and they put a big show out there every year, and there's a couple thousand people out there. It seems like it's a pretty big crowd, so it seems like there's more people that like them out there than they don't. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. Okay, council. It's yours now to direct discussion.
Again, I think we've heard lots of comments like we probably knew we were going to. And we have to move forward and go somewhere with this, right? And if it doesn't work, we're right back at this table again and doing it again. Because last year and the previous year and maybe even the one before that, I think we've talked about it. And it's been tabled and nothing's ever been done. So I think in front of us, obviously Frank came forward with a 10-10-10 or a, idea. I got changed a little bit in discussion from there of Independence Day being 8 in the morning till midnight. So from there, we're missing 2 people. And like I said, I will not make it to the next meeting, but I'm going to put it out there as I would like to make a motion to amend the amendment as read to change July, keep everything the same as 10 in the morning, 10 at night, for those days, except for July 3rd being 11 at night. So 10 in the morning till 11 at night, and July 4th for Independence Day staying like it is on that amendment of 8 in the morning till midnight.
Is that a motion?
Yeah.
Second.
You have the motion, Brianna? You okay? Okay. Any discussion on that? Just help me understand the July 3rd issue a little bit more. Just anecdotally, I guess I see in my neighborhood, regardless of the date, the 4th seems to be the 4th till midnight seems to be the day. It seems to be the day. So I'm not sure I quite understand the third argument. Can you help me out a little bit more on that?
Well, just like I stated before, is the majority, I'm not saying everybody, obviously, there's many shift workers that don't get, any of these holidays off, right? Or depending on which holiday they get because of the shift they're on or what they're doing. But majority of people are going to have July 4th, Independence Day, off as a holiday. And from the experiences I've heard, July 3rd is the day that they light the fireworks. And there is some truth to it's dark at 9 o'clock, so that's when they get to shoot off obviously the aerial fireworks that you see at night. Yeah, you could do some of that at 8:30, no doubt. But with 10 o'clock, it gives you a shorter time frame. 11 o'clock, I think, is a compromise, leaving it as it is instead of moving it another hour back to midnight. And I think if we find that this isn't good, then we come forward and change something again.
Okay. Thank you. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I'd just like to go back to the point. The reason we did 10, or at least proposed 10-10-10, wasn't necessarily to be catchy. It was to be a number that people remembered. And it was easy, 10 o'clock discharge, 10 o'clock PM, AM, 10 days. Those were the numbers they had to remember. And the 10 PM, the reason I mentioned that, I think, was a compromise for those 7 days that we didn't go with. And I think that extra hour in the evening will help a lot of people, even if they don't get it down to 7 days. I think that at least that extra hour, it's, if you will, it's 10 less hours of fireworks. So if you take it from 11 to 10, I don't know. I kind of like the consistency of it personally.
Of the existing policy?
Of the one that we have
existing
in
ordinance?
front of us.
The proposed. Okay.
Either way, you got a 1 and a second, so we vote whether we all like it or don't like it.
Yeah, motion and second. There's a motion and second. Is there any further discussion before vote? Okay. Okay.
Just clarify which one we're voting on.
Right now it's just the amendment to change July 3rd from 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. instead of 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. as stated in the ordinance before you now.
Okay. No further discussion. Please vote.
Sorry, I forgot my glasses and I cannot see. Didn't turn it on.
Oh, went a little too far. Too far.
That's a little extreme.
Yeah.
Sorry. Voting in the affirmative, Granquist and McCarthy. Voting in opposition, Arns, Webb, Murin, and Snorton. The motion to amend fails.
Okay.
Now we're
So
back
that
to
takes us back to the original ordinance, or the ordinance as amended 2 weeks ago. Any further discussion on that? Okay. Are we ready for another vote, Brianna? Okay. If no further discussion, please vote.
We're still waiting on some votes.
Oh, sorry, I got distracted. Voting in the affirmative, Arns, Webb, McCarthy, Murin. Voting in the negative, Granquist, Snorton.
You have to have 5
Yep.
for the existing ordinance. So, yeah, okay. If I don't vote on this, we go back to no changes. So I'm going to vote yes.
So with Mayor providing the 5th vote, ordinance number 5855 carries on second reading.
Okay. With that, we are concluded with our regular agenda, and we move to a closed session, item 28. I would look for a motion to go into closed session for the protection of the public interest to discuss potential litigation.
I'll make a motion to move into closed session.
Second.
Motion second. Please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
Okay, motion carried. Again, this closed session is for the sole purpose of updating elected officials on potential. Okay, the only item discussed during the closed session was potential litigation. May I have a motion to come out of closed session?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Motion and second. Please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
Takes us back to the council meeting, of which we are adjourned. Good evening.